Dishonored 2 – 15 new things you need to know.
We have a lot to talk about, so without wasting your time, let us begin right away.
15 years later. Perhaps the biggest change is the difference in time. Dishonored 2 is set 15 years after the events of the first game. Naturally, everyone's aged, and Emily is now an empress herself, taking over for her slain mother. With this advancement in the timeline, you could probably expect some cool new changes to all that cool steampunk technology too. A voiced protagonist. You spent all of your time in the previous game as the silent bodyguard assassin Corvo. He didn't have a whole lot to say, did he? Well, this time he's got a voice, courtesy of Stephen Russell. The move signals developer Arcane Studios' shift to a more story-driven universe. You can play as Corvo or Emily Kaldwin. Speaking of voiced protagonists, Corvo isn't your only option this time around. You'll actually start the game as Emily, and after the first 30 or so minutes, you'll be given the choice to go back to Corvo or play the rest of the game as Emily. You won't be able to swap between them whenever you like, you'll be stuck with one of them for the whole game. You'll get a different set of abilities for each character as well, though you'll still have the option of being stealthy or going in all guns blazing. Character influence on story. How will the game change depending on who you play though? The story will be the same regardless, but how the characters speak and act will change depending on who you go with. As Arcane Studios describes it, Corvo's an older guy, he's coming home for the first time to Serkanos. Emily is like an empress outlaw on the run and she's young, she's 25, so their perspectives are very different. So it sounds like Corvo will be the battle-tested, hardened leader, while Emily will be slightly more naive and possibly bloodthirsty. Emily has her own abilities. Much like Corvo, Emily has her own set of powers and abilities. They're totally different from Corvo's though. Where his powers are more about stealth and manipulation of time and enemies, Emily's are more about enhancing her own abilities. She has a tentacle which she can use to swing around like Spider-Man, and she can also climb the sides of walls and rip enemies' heads off, or link enemies together so that attacking one enemy deals damage to them all. Emily was named Baroness. Since Emily was the daughter of the Empress, it only makes sense she would be the next in line. Actually, a democratically elected leader would make sense, but whatever, that's not how this works. But at the start of the game, someone tries to kill her and seize power. Okay, so it's ripping itself off from the previous game, but this time Emily survives and seeks revenge, as well as restoring herself to the throne. A retcon has made Corvo Emily's dad. Yes, the datification of games continues with this bizarre retcon. Apparently, Dishonored 2 establishes a fling between Corvo and the former Empress, Emily's mum, which resulted in Emily. Now Emily knows, and the two do all kinds of father-daughter activities like killing people and trying not to be killed themselves. Both Emily and the Outsider have new voice actors. Arcane Studios went all out with new voice actors, even replacing two previous actors for some reason. Gone are Chloe Grace Moretz and Billy Lush as Emily and the Outsider respectively, and in comes Erica Luttrell and Robin Lord Taylor. You can argue Emily should have a new actor since she's older, but Chloe Grace Moretz is only about 6 years younger than Emily, so it's not a huge difference. Arcane have not yet, and probably never will, give a reason for the changes. The single-player campaign will last 12 to 20 hours. You could beat the first Dishonored in about 5 hours, around 8 if you explored all the extra areas and gathered all the collectibles, but this time around the playtime is going to triple. Arcane Studios is saying Dishonored 2 will last anywhere from 12 to 20 hours, again depending on how collectible crazy players are. That's a pretty huge increase in total playtime. It uses a brand new game engine. Whereas the original Dishonored used the Unreal 3 engine, Dishonored 2 will be using a new engine. It's called id Tech 5, and as you would imagine, it was created by id for Rage, and eventually the two new Wolfenstein games. It's supposedly supposed to provide better lighting and graphics overall, and allow for smooth frame rates. You'll have time travel abilities. Arcane showed this off at E3, but you'll be able to travel through time. Sort of. You have a wrist-mounted mirror device that lets you peer through time in a given location, and you can switch between the modern world and the past through this mirror in certain levels. There will be puzzles and stealth sections based on this ability. Most of the game takes place in a new setting, Karnaca. Dishonored 2 will begin and end in the city of Dunwall, but the majority of the game is set in a new location. Karnaca is a coastal town in one of the game's world islands. It's a lot brighter and more vibrant than the dark streets of Dunwall. The new area is based on European cities, specifically those found on the coasts of Greece, Italy, and Spain. But do not worry, it will be just as rundown, horrific, and disease-inducing as Dunwall. The game will have large levels with lower loading times. Thanks in part to the new engine, Dishonored 2 will have much larger levels with lower load times. If you played the first Dishonored, you'll no doubt remember that while levels were large, they were split up by multiple load zones. This time around, the levels will be even bigger, and you can say goodbye to those annoying load times. The low chaos ending from Dishonored 1 is canon, how Dishonored 2 will start. Now we get to the bad news. Dishonored 1 was all about player choice. It allowed the player to kill every guard they ran into for a high chaos ending, use stealth and not kill a soul for the low chaos ending, or you could go with a combination for a medium chaos ending. However, you won't be able to use your save from the previous game and continue from there. The low chaos ending where you didn't kill anyone is considered official canon, and that's where Dishonored 2 will pick up. Dishonored 2 will be more violent. Dishonored 1 was a violent game. It was all about stealthily killing people by stabbing them in the neck. But in Dishonored 2, the blood and gore will be taken to a new level. We briefly saw this in the E3 gameplay presentation this year, but it will go further than that. For example, one of Emily's powers is the ability to use those tentacle arms to rip enemies in half. Swords will also slice and dice enemies' limbs off. Arcane is going with the revenge story pretty hard, and they almost expect you to want to kill your way through the game.
Like this video? Why not give us a like and subscribe? We try and upload amazing videos almost every single day. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.